Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? This is my review of the fifth Captain Alatriste novel, The Cavalier in the Yellow Doublet. Title in Spanish is El Caballero del Jubón Amarillo. I always wondered why it had this title. What is a yellow doublet? It's like a cloak or a cape type thing. What is this story about? Well, let me say right out of the gate that out of the five Alatriste stories now that I have read, other than the first one, this one is the best. I'm going to give it a hearty 5 stars. The main, well, the inciting incident is that Alatriste has taken up a romantic dalliance with a very popular actress in Madrid, a stage actress named Maria de Castro. She's got a husband, but as is kind of customary for the time when everybody is sort of libertine with these things, he's got a revolving door of mistresses, and she'll take any male suitor that she prefers, provided that he pays enough. So effectively, she's a very high end prostitute, but she stokes some jealousies among her various admirers by kind of crushing on Alatriste, and he gets the goods for free. This causes a couple of problems in his personal life as well, because throughout this story, he has more or less taken up lodgings above a tavern, El Taberno de los Turcos, with a retired prostitute named Caridad la Lebrijana, who is bigly in love with Alatriste, but he's never properly committed to her. She's just been in love with him, and he's the only guy that she'll see now. And he's a broke swordsman for hire who has nowhere else to go, nowhere else to live, so he just kind of crashes there. So it's one of those cruddy elements of his character that he's like, well, I never really committed to you, and she's like, yeah, well, you're the only guy that I'm with, and I'm really in love with you. And he never determined the relationship, but he's there enjoying the fruits thereof. So we finally see a less than admirable quality, we'll say diplomatically, in our protagonist, the dear captain. In 5 novels of honor and courage and bravery, he couldn't just be this perfect example of a man who lives on the hard edge of life. He had to have a flaw, and this is one that he does something that's not worthy of admiration or emulation. And this is a quality that has consequences because, as I said, he ends up garnering the jealousy and therefore the enmity of other would-be suitors of Maria de Castro, one of whom just so happens to be the King of Spain, El Rey Felipe. There are still nefarious actors in the shadows of Madrid, ones who have not forgotten other slights that the captain has leveled against them in the past, whether he was right or wrong to do so, among them being the very powerful Inquisition that wants to make moves against the King of Spain. He has not yet produced a male heir, and the Inquisition finally thinks, well, if we can find a way to kill the king, then the line of succession goes to his brother, whose son is much more easily controlled and malleable and so on and so forth. They can have a puppet monarch who will do the bidding of the church, or at the very least be blackmailable. And they can kill the monarch. They can find a way to pin it on Alatriste. They can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and finally get payback for him wronging them and humiliating them the way that he did all the way back in the first book. The way this all plays out, it's a little bit complicated to explain, but there's some court politics. But as for the title character, the Cavalier in the Yellow Doublet, the Italian hitman Gualterio Malatesta comes back into the story, and he's hired, again, by the Inquisition to kill Alatriste and to also kill the king, but unfortunately, they end up killing the king's double, who is wearing the same yellow doublet that the king does when he goes out in disguise. The king's protectors, his bodyguards, like they know that there are people that would make an attempt on his life, but they also know that the king's going to go out and have an affair with this Maria de Castro actress. At one point, like, the king even leverages Maria de Castro to send a letter to Alatriste saying, like, okay, yep, no more. He's like, wait, what? No, like, you're not just going to cut me off from, like, the hottest woman in Madrid. What the heck's going on? And he ends up falling right into the trap. Well, the first time that he falls into the trap, Malatesta is there and ends up killing the body double for the king, but then they have to go and orchestrate an even more complex scheme to actually lure the king out and to get Alatriste in the neighborhood when it happens. And it's so complex, but it's so well done. And I think one of the most like satisfying, really, but fulfilling payoffs has to do with Inigo. If you don't remember, he's the man who's telling the entire saga. He's kind of Alatriste's apprentice. Inigo's father and Alatriste were comrades back in the Flemish Wars, and he saved Alatriste's life. And at the beginning of the very first book, when Balboa's widow has too many mouths to feed, she sends Inigo off to be Alatriste's apprentice, and saying, like, hey, remember my late husband, your buddy? You owe him one. Take care of my son. And Inigo's grown up now. He's a veteran. He knows how to fight. And ever since the very first book, there's been a girl, a handmaiden, a member of the court, as it were, who he's been hopelessly in love with. But because she's a member of the court and she's therefore a political instrument, blah, 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 she becomes a cog in the machine working against Alatriste. And her romance with Inigo ends up playing a role in it. And this is something that Inigo has hinted at throughout these books, specifically the fact that he was head over heels in love with Angelica de Alcázar, this young woman, but that she was also like basically going to be the death of him. And he's referenced a couple of times this scar that he has on his back that she gave him with a knife. We finally get to the payoff scene where we see the moment where that happens, where she literally stabs him in the back with a knife, and it's all part of this scheme to entrap Alatriste and blame him for the murder of Rey Felipe. I won't give away the ending of the book. Suffice it to say that, like, I'm going to reiterate this point from the beginning. It is my favorite in the series so far, other than the first book, and it's only the second book out of 5 to get 5 stars. I'm really glad that I've read these in English, because when I do eventually go back to read them for the second or third time, in some cases, I'll have a much stronger grasp on the story, and I won't have to refer back to the English editions so often in order to look up certain words that I'm unfamiliar with. Boy, I'm glad I just bought gas before the price spikes by 20 cents again. I digress. As of right now, there are only 2 books left. There's Pirates of the Levant, called Corsarios de Levante in Spanish, and I cannot remember the 7th book. Is it Bridge of Assassins? Yeah, Puente de Asesinos. Supposedly, there was going to be an 8th and maybe even a 9th book, but I guess the way that the 7th book ends, Pérez y Reverte decided not to write anymore. In fact, there is an omnibus called Todo Alatriste that has all 7 books. If there's an English version of that, I'll grab that. But as of right now, I got the first 5 in paperback in Spanish, and I think I'll be hard-pressed to find matching paperbacks for books 6 and 7, because it's been 20 years since I bought those. I'm sure they've released different editions and blah blah blah. But I love it. There was maybe one book out of the last 5 that I gave 3 stars to, where it was just kind of a meh volume. I'm pretty sure it was El Sol de Breda. The King's Gold was good. It was 4 stars good, but yeah, the Cavalier of the Yellow Doublet was just superb. So I recommend you guys pick these up in English if you're not Spanish readers. I mean, that's completely fine. But these are wonderful period pieces, tales of honor and courage. And I think it was humanizing in a sense to see a flaw in Alatriste's character. but the payoff at the end of the story is just an affirmation of what his greatest qualities are. And it's not just the reader that gets to recognize that. So 5 stars, whether I put it on the best of year list, haven't decided yet, but daggum, this was an incredible book. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching and liking and subscribing and all that stuff. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.